Hello there and welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. Now, no big intros today. Let's get straight into the action. This is step one, where we are going to build the input sheet for the date checker. Let's do this. Okay, we are going to rename the sheet first. So this is a blank sheet. I've already saved it as date checker build tutorial. And I've saved it as a macro enabled file for when we start working with macros later in this series of videos. Now I'm going to rename this sheet, so I'm going to right click on the tab and do rename. I'm going to call this date checker, like so, and hit return. So let's start building out the date input here for and it's really focused towards neurodiverse people in this instance with a focus. So for example, my kids are all autistic and they struggle with dates, and one of the things they struggle with is they get confused with the order of the months, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do month and then do month number as a visual aid within the Excel file. So if I type January here, Excel, if I select that and drag that, take that handle and drag it down, it'll recognize it as a series, and there we go, we've got the months of the year. If I put a 1 in here, so get the month number, and if I drag that down, look what happens. It just copies 1. So we don't want that, we want it to go from 1 to 12. Here's a little trick. If I select the cell with the 1 in, and the cell to the right, and then drag it down, there you go, it recognizes it as a series. So let's give this a little bit of format. So I'm going to call this months here, and I'm going to give it that type of format. Let's make it 20, and let's just merge and center across there like so. Let's make these green, and then let's just put some grids around them, some borders. So I'm going to choose all borders. There we go. So now that's done. Now we want to focus on the entry part of this. So the first thing is we are going to need an ID. So when the activities appear on that interactive calendar, is that you'll have a unique ID, and you'll know which input represents that visual on the calendar. So that's what we've got the ID for. We then want the date, which is the short date. So this is where, you know, for example, Daisy, she receives dates in number format that she really struggles with. It confuses her, and she prefers to see it in a long form format. So we're going to do long date here, and then we're then going to have somewhere where we can enter, you know, a brief description of the activity. Okay, so those are the 4 elements that we want. So for this one, I want it to go from, so we're going to have 20 rows per, so I'm going to do equals sequence. I'm just going to type 20, and that'll give me 20 there. So this here is going to be a date format. So again, I'm going to set this format to be a short date. Yeah. And I'm also going to put some data validation, because what I want to ensure is that a valid date is being put in here. So what I'm going to do is on the data ribbon, under data validation, I'm going to select that data validation, then I'm going to select date from the list, the drop down here, and it's going to be greater than, let's do greater than or equal to, and Excel goes back to the 1900. And all we're doing is that we're forcing Excel to check that it's a valid date. So if we start it from there, Excel now in all these cells will check, and let's then just put an error alert in here, and just put a message in there, must be a valid date, and then click OK. And what this does then is if I put gobbledygook in here, so it's not a date, it's going to tell me no, and it needs to be a valid date. If I accidentally put 32/08/24, I won't recognise it as a date, so it'll tell me to go away. Okay. So that's what that data validation does. Now, with this bit here, is we want to create a long date. Now, if I put 01/07/24 in there, and I do that equals that, and we say, you could say, well, why don't we just put a long date in here? And we change the format here to long date, then that doesn't work for Daisy, for example, because she likes to see the day of the week as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo that there, and we're going to use the text piece, the text format. So let's just do with that date in there, right? And let's do equals. So first of all, I want to find the day of the week. So I'm going to do text. The value is going to be that cell there. And then the format is I'm going to do 3Ds. Yeah, and that will return the day of the week. Wonderful. The next thing that I want from here, and let's just do the formulas in piece and then we'll join them up. So let's just work it out. So the next thing that I want is I want the day. So here I'm just going to do equals day. I'm going to use a day function and use that date serial number, hit return, and it gives me the day. I then want the month. So the month, again, I'm going to use the text function. So I'm going to do text. The value is going to be, again, E5, comma, and to get the month in long form, I'm going to do 4 M's in quotation marks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, close the quotation marks, close the bracket, hit return, and there we get the month. And then finally, using the year function, serial number, like so. So now I need to string all those things together in one cell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this here, and I'm just going to copy it and escape out of there. And what I'm going to do is so you can use the ampersand to concatenate things within the formula bar. So I'm going to do the ampersand. I'm then going to do a space. Yeah. And then I'm going to close the quotation mark, and then I'm going to do the ampersand again, and I'm going to paste that formula in, like so. And let me just hit return. There we go. So we got Monday first. So let me get rid of that one. Now let's add the month to it. So again, I'm just going to copy that formula. And I'm going to do the ampersand in the formula bar. Again, quotation mark, space, close that quotation mark, then the ampersand, and then paste that formula in and hit return. So now I've got Monday, 1st of July. And then finally, so that is fine. Then we want to add the year. So again, just copy that. Escape. Again, ampersand, quotation mark, space, quotation mark, and then an ampersand. And obviously these just put spaces in between each one. And then Control V to paste in that year and hit return. And there we go, we've got the long format there. So if I then delete that year, so let's put these all, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to centralize all these, center. Wonderful. Now, that's great. So if I copy that down, that looks a bit messy, doesn't it? So we only want it to do that if there's a value in here. So let me just undo that again, and let's just wrap this in an if statement and do if E5 does not equal blank, which is just 2 quotation marks, then do that, do this calculation here. Otherwise, do a comma and return a blank cell. Hit return. Wonderful. Now let's just drag that down. And there we go. So as we enter something, so if I enter 02/07/24, there you go. It's pulling that date through. Wonderful. Okay. Let's now format this. So I'm just going to make this a little bit narrower. So I'm going to right click on the column header and do column width. I'm going to make that 3. Just double click that to shrink it down. As far as the date is concerned, I'm going to make that 11. Let's make this column here, I'm going to right click on it, column width, let's make that 24. Click OK, and then the activity, let's make that slightly longer. Let's go, or wider should I say, 40. Okay, I like that layout. So again, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make these green. What I want up here is I want something where I'm going to say, so you can enter a meaningful title to this block of activity. Let's put that like so. I am going to take this and I'm going to merge and center it, and I'm also going to say wrap that text like so. And I'm going to change the format to be input to make that a consistent input. And then as far as this column, that's going to be input. So again, just change that format to be input. And then I'm going to take this column here, and that's also going to be input. Boom. Then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to select it all here, and I am going to just again, same border set up like so. So I'm now happy with that format. So the other thing that we've got to do now is what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, and if we do Control-1 and we look at protection, at the moment the default is everything's locked. And also what I'm going to do is say everything's hidden as well across the sheet. So that's across the board, and click OK. So, you know, formulas are not distracting people when the sheet is eventually protected. I'm then going to take this here, highlight it, and then hold down my Control key and highlight this here and that there. These are all input. I'm going to do Control-1, and I'm just going to take the hidden and the locked off, because obviously those are input cells, like so. So now that I've done that, let me now copy this. So, and the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to take this cell, this column here, column width, let's make that 3. Let's make these the same column width as this here. So again, and again, it's good to take a note of what your column widths are going to be, and then keep them consistent, and try and repeat that consistency across any of your templates and your dashboards. It's just good practice. So I'm going to make that column width there. Well, that's going to be the hash. In fact, let me just copy this here first. Do Control, copy, and then I'm going to paste that. Yeah, and then I'm just going to make that smaller. I'm going to take this column here. It's going to be, right click on it, column width, that's going to be 11. The long date, column width is going to be 24. And then the activity is going to be 40. Column width. Everything else that we did as far as the validation, etc., will have copied across. Again, so if I enter, same with the form, so if I enter something in there and try and enter it in, it's going to tell me no. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want this sequence to continue after this here. So before I copy this, I'm going to use this as my template and copy it across, is I need to change this to be to start from 21. And the way that I do that is it's going to be 20 rows here. I'm going to do comma. I don't need columns, but my start point is going to be this value here plus 1. Yeah, and if I hit return, and there you go, it's now numbering from 21. So now that I've done that, let me just then copy this across on the sheet and create another 2 instances of this using this as the template. And there you go. So we've now got 4. So it goes up to, so you can enter up to 80 activities, as you can see there. I'm just going to delete that there from there. I'm going to delete these here. We don't need to see those anymore. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some header format up on the top here. So let's, I'm going to make this row a lot higher. So row height, I'm going to change that to 64. I'm then going to fill it with that green there, and then I'm going to do the bottom, I'm going to do more borders. Let's take that one there and let's make that a darker green, and just hit the bottom like so and hit OK. Wonderful, I like that. Now let's insert an icon up here to get that, just so you know you're working with calendars. So I'm going to do insert icons. And with the icon here, I'm just going to select a calendar. Let's take that one. I'm going to select it and do insert. I'm then going to make that a little bit so it fits within there. And again, as far as that graphic, with that still selected, I'm going to choose again that color there. And then from here, I'm then going to put a title here. So you can put help with understanding dates. That's what I put in there. Let's put date checker up here. And let's make this, let's not put it there. Let's make that bigger. Let's make it font 48. Let's make it bold. And again, let's make that color the same. And I'm going to make it middle like so. Okay, so we've got our date checker header there formatted. Right. Now, next thing I want is, so again, so using days as an example, she wants to calculate dates. So she selects a date in here. So she's got the 1st of July. Yeah, and she's trying to work out, right, well, when, you know, course starts, for example, and it lasts for 3 days. Well, when does it end? What date? So we want to give Daisy the ability to calculate that. And the way that we're going to do that is we need to create some inputs in here. So first of all, I want an adjustment option. So this is where we can say we want to include the date or exclude the date. So if you want to know how many days after a date, or you want to include the date in that calculation. So adjustment option. I'm then going to go adjustment type, and then, so is it plus or minus, and then I'm going to do number of days. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to merge and center that. Let's merge and center that, and let's merge, center that, and I'm going to format these to be Again, that like so. Then here, let's just adjust these column widths here again. So column width is 14. Let's change this one to be 5. And then let's change this one to be 14. Okay, and this is going to be input, so we want our options here. So this is going to be include, exclude. So I'm going to go to data validation. Data validation, I'm going to choose settings is going to be a list. And I'm just going to type in include, comma, exclude. I don't need to put quotation marks. Yeah, and click OK. And there's the drop down, so let's set that to include. I'm going to make that center a line there on the home ribbon, center it. This one here, I just want plus or minus. So again, on data validation, list, and let's put plus, comma, minus, and click OK. Let me just set that to plus, and then I'm just going to set this to 0, like so. It's going to be a number field. Don't want any decimal places here, so let's get rid of the decimal places, like so. Now I'm going to put some data validation on this because I want to make sure it's an actual valid number. So again, I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to do data validation. And this time I'm going to choose whole number. And I'm going to say where it is greater than or equal to 0. Yeah, and that way then, and again, just put days must be a valid whole number. And click OK. Then let's just put some border lines around this. Home, again, do all borders. Done. So we've now done the first part and the layout of our date checker. In the next video, we will continue with our date checker and we'll add this date checker support sheet where we'll start working with some interactive calendars and building those interactive calendars. So that's what we'll work on in the next video. So I hope you was able to follow along on that. And please remember to click that like, subscribe, and smash that notifications button for future content. And as always, I wish you a wonderful day, wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video from Change, Tips and Tools. Bye bye now.